Our nation is in turmoil. There is a civil distress right now in our country. There are states that are on fire right now. And a plague has befallen our nation. Right now, more than ever, we need to come together as brothers and sisters, as American citizens, and agree on the one founding truth that we can hold on to right now. It's that the Legend of Korra sucked. Welcome to Harley here. The Legend of Korra dropped on Netflix a few weeks ago, and there has always been a little bit of contention with the fans of The Last Airbender, talking about how The Legend of Korra was just utter trash, how Korra was the worst avatar ever, that how the show just was not good. And I don't agree entirely with all of those statements. I thought that Korra was okay. The Legend of Korra picks up about 70 years after the events of the original Team Avatar with Aang, Katara, Zuko, Sokka, Toph, Suki, if you want to include Suki, let's go Suki. You know, those guys. And it's about the next avatar in the Avatar cycle, who is Korra, a waterbender from the Southern Water Tribe. Most of this series takes place in Republic City, which is actually pretty cool because the Republic City was a Fire Nation colony that Team Avatar came together and tried to liberate after the 100-Year War. But these guys in this colony they integrated so much with Earth Kingdom and Fire Nation heritage that they didn't want to get absorbed back into the Earth Kingdom. So they made their own sovereign state nation, which is Republic City. And so 70 years later, the Legend of Korra takes place in what is essentially the 1920s industrial revolution time, where technology is on the brink, not on the brink, but in full swing. They have automobiles, they have planes, they have skyscrapers, they have electricity, they have a lot of things going on. So from 70 years ago to now, there's been a lot of technological advances there. So you find Korra going to Republic City to learn airbending from Aang's son Tenzin, who is an airbending master there. Korra goes to Republic City. She befriends two pro-benders, which is pretty cool because pro-benders is a thing now where benders do this pretty much like a robot death battle, but not so much death there, and to see who's the better bender. It's pretty interesting to see. She makes friends with these two brothers, a firebender and an earthbender, and she joins their team. They go on many adventures in the first season to take down the Equalists, led by the mass villain. What was his name again? Amon, the mass villain Amon. Thank you, Google. So, yes, there's this guy who's taking away the bending of benders, pretty similar to how Aang Chi bended the Fire Lord in the series finale there. And he's pretty much saying that all the problems that have come up in the world were started by benders. Every war was started by benders. There's always been oppression caused by the benders to the non-benders, and it's almost, I don't know, it's almost very political antagonist there. If you just see these things play out, it's kind of like, whoa, like a little more mature than I guess a little more, like the subject matter is a little more mature than what was going on in The Last Airbender. Korra, The Legend of Korra has 4 seasons, not 3, but 4 seasons, all pertaining to a separate antagonist, which, if you ask me, was a little bit of a problem. One of the best things about The Last Airbender was how each season tied together with one sole mission of Aang taking down the Fire Lord. Korra kind of hops around a bit back and forth, not even back and forth per se, but just from each threat to the next, which didn't tie in, kind of just not having an overall unity in the overall series. So right off the bat, you can see that this series targets a little more of a older audience, more teenagers. There's more mature themes going on in the Legend of Korra, hands down. Sure, you have the daunting themes of genocide in the Last Airbender. There was one time where Katara literally told Zuko that she would kill him, she would end his destiny, he wouldn't have to worry about it. You have bloodbending, which was really creepy. That started in Last Airbender. So there's hands down there's mature themes that happen in the Last Airbender, but it wasn't the overall like back tone like in the Legend of Korra. First off, one of the things that happens in there almost off the bat is a love triangle between the characters Korra, Mako, and Asami there, and it was almost just like watching a soap opera a little bit, like a teen drama. In comparison to the Last Airbender, we all know that Aang had feelings for Katara, but those they didn't become a solid thing into the series finale. So seeing the 3 seasons of tension, like tension between these two characters was almost it was a huge payoff in the end. But with Korra, they don't even let things build up. It's like kind of right out of the gates you see these guys starting to get into a relationship or wanting to get into a relationship, then it just becomes really messy and falls flat on itself. And so that was just something that just didn't really hold up there. So yeah, like some of them, the little bit more mature things that were happening in Korra, I think the creators were going for something that would have been better expressed if it was, I don't know, like a Teen Nick show, if it was something on Toonami, maybe even Adult Swim. I think they would have been able to express themselves a little more. There was one scene in season 3 where Korra was captured by the antagonist Zahir, and she's like chained up. She looks at him and his whole crew and says, "If I get out of here, none of you are gonna survive." And so, like, straight up, she was saying that she was gonna kill every single one of these people in that room. And that would have been something that would have been kind of, I don't know, it would have held a little more weight. It would have went a little far if they would have had a little more creative freedom to say what they wanted to say, really. Korra was very different from Aang. Aang was a pacifist. He was a monk. Sure, I get that. Korra was a lot more aggressive, and not in a bad way. She wasn't like, it's not a bad thing to be like aggressive all the time, but she was just like, hey, like, I'm gonna kill you, you and you. Aang didn't really want to kill anybody. That's just another big difference between her and Aang, between her and her previous avatar. There was differences between the team avatars as well. One of the best things about The Last Airbender is how the team had chemistry. There was a great dynamic between Sokka and Katara. They were brother and sister. We saw the relationships between them like grow as they both experienced growth through the series, as well as with Aang, Toph, Zuko, Suki, like all these guys. They had great connections that grew as the series progressed. The Legend of Korra's team avatar, there was great chemistry between Korra, Mako, and Bolin. They had this thing that worked, and Asami as well. But as Legend of Korra progressed, it seems like that their team broke up and got further and further away from each other. And by the end of the last season, it's almost like there wasn't even a dynamic that worked between the team. There were arguments that happened. There was a 3-year time jump between season 3 and season 4. When the team got back together, it was just like they couldn't even really get along. They reconciled the relationship, but it was still just different. I think like in season 2, really what had messed it up was the relationship between Korra and Mako and Asami there. That just really, again, I understand that these are things that happens in real life, but just like the overall glue that we wanted to see in the cast that we loved about Last Airbender was not in the Legend of Korra there. So I always said, and I always thought that the way that these seasons progressed were really out of order. If you ask me, in the vein of Avatar, which one of those threats were the most extreme, it definitely was the evil Avatar that was going to plunge the world into 1,000 years of darkness. Um, I can see the Legend of Korra opening up with the Equalists, with Amon, this guy taking away their bending, which focused primarily in Republic City. You know, kind of just an introduction to the series. But then, you know, you flash forward to season 2 with Evil Avatar, season 3 with Zahir, which is pretty much a Amon on steroids. If you ask me, he didn't want to take away bending, but he wanted to change the world for almost like a cousin of Amon reasons. And season 4 was almost like they didn't even have to make it. Season 4 was just pretty much a recovery from season 3, if you ask me, about the Earth Kingdom trying to take over Republic City. The weight is held very, very much so, in my opinion, by the Evil Avatar, which should have been the series finale. But the show kind of just bounced to different things and just didn't have again overall unity. I really think that that's one of the biggest problems that the Legend of Korra has, is that they're just all over the place in this show. Their group dynamic did not hold up, and they tried to be a little more mature than they needed to be on Nickelodeon. One thing that many Last Airbender fans wanted to see was more of freaking Aang, of course. How Avatar Roku was Aang's Avatar spirit guide in The Last Airbender. It should have been the same with Korra and Aang. The show expresses the fact how Korra is not connected to the spiritual side of being the Avatar as well as Aang was. I understand that, I get that, but there was just this vagueness to Aang and to the previous team Avatar that was just very unsatisfying in The Legend of Korra. Again, we all wanted to see more of Aang. We all wanted to see more of Sokka, Katara. Toph was in the show. Toph was cool. Zuko was in the show. He was cool. Absolutely no Sokka in the show. Katara was in the show a little bit in the Southern Water Tribe, but it was almost like she was a freaking ghost of herself. She didn't express any Katara-ness at all whatsoever. Anything that you think about Katara was not 80-year-old Katara in The Legend of Korra. 80-something-year-old Toph still had Toph's personality. She was very rough and tough and jokey. Zuko was still Zuko, even though he was just freaking old. He kind of resembled more Uncle Iroh, which was actually pretty awesome to see. But yeah, there was not a lot of the previous Team Avatar that we all really wanted to see. We understand it was a new series with new characters and everything like that, but they just didn't really give a lot of that. So overall, The Legend of Korra did not measure up to The Last Airbender, but the show was not complete trash. There are some very good parts in it. I really loved, again, the story with Avatar 1. I would recommend anybody to go check that out. Watch The Legend of Korra if you like that, The Last Airbender. You owe the Avatar cycle that. Asami sucked. Bolin was the best character in the show. The giant robot was ridiculous. Like, what the heck was that? When you compare Last Airbender and Korra, when I compare the two, I'm definitely gonna have to give The Legend of Korra. It's a movie. It's a show. You know, it was okay, but it wasn't stupendous. There were parts of it that were very good. There were let's go worthy parts of The Legend of Korra, but in its entirety, it just you know, it just wasn't hitting. It wasn't slapping like it used to. All right, guys. So that's it on Hardly Here. We are there now. We're here. I don't know what Preston says.